fields of grain, for purple mountain majesty.
The north wall of the legislative chambers, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would ask that you all remain standing. I had a special request. I asked our Kaiva Williams from our office to come and sing the national anthem in honor of Commissioner Tusha today. So she would come forward, please. Great. Right there's fine.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wow. Thank you, Ty. There goes the Kleenex. Yeah. Okay. There's my name. Okay, so with that, we will begin with the agenda for the Douglas County Health Center Board of Trustees, and I will turn it over to Commissioner Duda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will begin with, this isn't Burl anymore. We welcome Jennifer, to the big seat here and as Burl's replacement. Jennifer is a Marine, and so I know enough to be nice to her. With that, would you please call the roll, Jen?
Trustee Boyle.
Here.
Chair Duda.
Here.
Trustee Morgan. Here. Trustee Kraft. Here. Trustee Rogers. Here. Trustee Tusha. Here. Trustee Borgeson.
Here.
Thank you. We have one item on the agenda, and that is the update for the HMA recommendations for long-term care. These are the periodic updates we have been receiving, and we welcome our director, Jim Turreville. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, trustees. Thank you for the opportunity. The report I'm giving today is as of actually yesterday, and if you refer to the document that's laying on at your place, I'll go through some of the things that are on there. As you know, laundry was outsourced, and that was transferred to Cornhusker State Industries November 25th. The 4 employees in laundry that were laid off have accepted positions as housekeepers in our housekeeping department. So
no one ended up losing their job over that?
No, they did not.
Oh, how nice.
So
that's great.
It worked out very, very well. And that was one of the reasons we were holding those vacant positions in housekeeping for housekeepers, because we were wondering if possibly some of them might want to go into those positions. We had them available.
So that's great. Yeah. Pleased to hear it.
And for the long-term care behavioral health work group, I shared this with you last month when I updated you. And this is recommended by Commissioners Borgeson and Duda. And we're going to be exploring options to provide care to long-term care residents with a higher level of mental illness. And some of the people that have been invited or will be invited this week to serve are, of course, Commissioner Borgeson, Commissioner Duda, Patrick, our Chief Administrative Officer, Dennis Luce from Eastern Nebraska Office on Aging, Patty Jurgovec from Region 6, Dr. Tom Magnuson, he's a geriatric psychiatrist at the Nebraska Medical Center, Sherry Glassnap from the Mental Health Center, and of course myself. And we'll invite other community resources as deemed necessary as they are needed to serve on the committee. And invitations will be sent out this week, and the first meeting will be at 10 o'clock on January 12th of 2015. Electronic health records, I should say, had a conference call last Thursday with Meditech to discuss how the interfacing dialogue was progressing between Meditech and QS1. And QS1 is the software that we currently use for handling all of our prescriptions. The big concern there is the outpatient volume. We do a lot of outpatient prescriptions for the mental health center, for the primary health care clinic, for CMHC, mental health patients. And we have to be sure that the EHR will help us with that. If it won't, then of course that's a major concern. That's a large volume. And our pharmacy does in one day, in 8 hours, equal to more prescriptions than a busy Walgreens does in 24 hours. So it gives you an idea of how many they do. They'll do as many as a busy Walgreens does in 24 hours, in 8 hours. So it's very, very busy. And they are open 6 days a week. We are making progress on the interfaces between for admissions and for the patient prescriptions. And we're waiting for Meditech response to requests that we have made of them for the outpatient prescription piece to make sure that the Meditech product can and will meet our needs in that area. We remodeled a room, or are remodeling a room, to be used as an employee computer training room. And then we'll also use that for staff development, for employee orientation, and HR will also use it for the self-service needs, where we have the mandatory modules that the new employees have to go through, and also for periodic updates that employees have to take, the online training programs.
Where will that room be?
It's just down by staff development. We have met in there before.
Right.
It's the former care plan room.
Fine.
And care plan room is going to be moved up to the 4th floor.
Okay. Thank you.
And we're also assessing at the present time the amount of support we might need or will need for the EHR system as we go forward. And also the installation of a wireless project in the facility. That'll be done after the one in corrections is completed. We don't have a start date for that yet, but then we'll have wireless EHR access on all the neighborhoods, which is an important piece. And then for short-term rehab, referrals for short-term rehab are down right now. And this happens each year over the holidays, and also when the weather's nice, people put off elective surgeries. So therefore, we don't get referrals for those people who've had the surgery coming to us for the short-term rehab. So it will pick up again. The highest census we have had since the unit opened has been 16 of the 22. So that was good. We're also working on a certified med aid job description, and this is a nursing assistant who has taken additional training to go ahead and to pass medications to help the nurses with their medication distribution. We've hired an MDS nurse and an MDS coordinator, and we'll also be hiring a clinical liaison admissions coordinator for short-term rehab also. And we're working with Select Rehab. They're our PTOT and speech therapy provider. And we want them to provide outcome data that we can use to assess their service and also to market their service to our community. And working on packaging facility data regarding hospital readmissions. As you remember, the Accountable Care Organization, that's one of the things that the feds are going to be looking at, is how quickly does a person who comes to you post-hospitalization, do they return to the hospital again? And if it's within 30 days after they've been discharged from the hospital, that's a major concern, and they will adjust our reimbursement accordingly. So we have to be very careful of that, and we need that data so we can show it to the acute care hospitals that we are not readmitting people to the hospital within the 30 days after discharge. So we're getting that information so we can help sell ourselves to the hospitals as well.
Thank you.
So,
Trustee Boyle, did you have a question?
Yes, you really flew through this. You remind me of
I'm
the
sorry.
newscaster at night when he has 15 seconds to give a
I
story.
did work in radio, if that helps.
Yeah, right, okay, good. There's a lot of questions that pop up. There's costs associated with all these. And
Sure.
So I wonder, starting right at the top, the laundry processing, when it was moved to the prison, I'm sure there was talk about saving money and so forth. And I'm glad that the laundry workers are able to accept positions as housekeeping aides and so forth. But how does this affect the savings?
It really doesn't affect the savings to my knowledge. It's still, we thought that possibly, we factored in, we actually took the 4 employees and did a what-if scenario to see if they did take those positions, what it would do, and it didn't really change the savings at all because we needed to have those 4 positions filled in housekeeping anyway. So it worked out very well that we had those vacant positions.
So by keeping the employees, we don't save money?
We do save money. We save, I think it's close to $200,000 a year, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember right.
Okay, well, that's what I'm driving at. If you're saving $200,000 a year, but they're still working, I don't get that connection. It's kind of baffling. How
Well,
does
and
that happen?
also laundry is, for the remaining employees in the laundry department are also putting the clothes away, which is something they did not do before. That was done by the nursing department, so that is helping nursing with their duties that are related to nursing. So,
Well, I'm one that likes to see figures with things,
Okay.
so I'd like to see the costs of, how much you saved, how much you spent, and really get down to it, because I've been talking to Joe Lorenz about the PBS operation, and there's some people that are not going and they're staying, so I'm still trying to figure out how that's saving money, and particularly how it's going to serve the taxpayer, which I think is going to be not quite to the, the standard that we've had at the facility. It's been such a high-quality operation, and now we're going to have recordings answering the phone, which is not as good as it used to be. That's, kind of the theme of all this and saving the health center was that we would maintain the quality, and I just want to be sure we don't sell out on some of these changes.
okay.
If I may,
Yeah.
Trustee Boyle, no decisions have been made regarding the PBX. There's no changes made or anything.
Yeah, I'm just looking, I appreciate that, but I'm looking at the raw data of the proposal, and it looks
Okay,
like
fine.
that's what I was referring to, but I
Got
do
it.
appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
And the others, I guess going further down here with, there were some other things you went through pretty fast, which I appreciate. I mean, it's okay, but you did remind me of the guy that's on ABC, talks real fast.
That's where I got my training.
It's all right. But anyway, some of these changes, it seems like, involve costs, and I'd be curious. I really would like to know if you could apply some costs and some
Certainly.
savings to each one of these sections.
Most certainly.
It'd be helpful to me, and I'd appreciate it.
I'll let my numbers person do that.
Good. That's the best.
You like that?
That's the
Yeah,
best.
you bet.
Thanks a lot, Jim.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Other comments or questions for Mr. Turville? All right. Well, thank you for a good report.
Thank you.
then, Jeff.
Thanks for the update.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All that, Jen, you're not quite done yet.
Citizens' comments.
We have citizens' comments. Is there any citizen wishing to comment on anything for the Douglas County Health Center? Not on the agenda. All right. No need for executive session. Okay, maybe you are done, Jen. I guess I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Then we be done, and I turn the meeting over to our real chair,
Good job.
Mary Ann Borgeson.
Welcome
Thank you,
aboard.
Jen. Hey, nice job.
Good job. We'll begin with the agenda for the Douglas County Board of Equalization. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Boyle,
Here.
Commissioner Duda, Commissioner Kraft, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Rogers, Commissioner Tusha, Madam Chair.
Here, item A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held Tuesday, December 9, 2014, and call for a meeting and set Tuesday, January 13, 2015, as date for hearing on certified assessment corrections reflecting the addition of omitted property to the tax rolls or increased value on property.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes.
Citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chamber wishing to speak to the Board of Equalization about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we do have 8 resolutions, item D through K. Hello, Mr. Goodwillie.
Mike Goodwillie, Douglas County Assessor's Office. Before you got going, or before we started to do anything, I know there's a representative from Madonna here to speak to Resolution D. So if we can start with that one.
Great.
Why don't you let me give you the background. This is a property that was taxable as a vacant parcel in 2013. For 2014, we received an application from Madonna Rehabilitation Hospital indicating that they intended to begin construction on their hospital when the weather permitted, meaning the springtime. Under Nebraska law, if property converts from a non-exempt use to an exempt use on or before July 1, it can still be exempt for the entire year. And so our thought process was, and additionally there's a regulation that provides that in addition to using a property for a charitable, religious, educational, or cemetery purpose, if there is ongoing construction of a building or an improvement that would be used for one of those purposes, that qualifies as use too. So initially when we looked at that application, we operated under the assumption that they said if they were going to begin construction in the spring, that's prior to July 1, and so we granted the application. Subsequent to that point, we learned that there really wasn't construction, or the construction didn't begin when we thought it would. I contacted the general counsel for Madonna, who indicated that construction did not begin until August 18th, after the July 1st deadline. And additionally, the first permit they obtained was for footings and foundation, and they obtained that in relatively late October. And so the reason we're here is because I think the exemption application was granted prematurely, and under state law you can go back in any year and review whether that was properly granted. And so our premise is that this property did not qualify by the July 1st deadline. We expect it probably will qualify in 2015 because there is ongoing construction, but for 2014 they do not. There is a representative from Madonna here that I think would like to address you, and I think may even have an exhibit.
Commissioner Boyle, did you want to?
Well, I wanted to ask Mike just a preliminary question, if I might. Excuse me. This has occurred before. I remember this several years ago. We had an organization, a nonprofit, fully qualified and all the rest of it, and they found themselves in the same dilemma. And the way that they corrected the situation was, it turned out that during that interim, they had gone out to the site and had formally met, and talked about different building projects. They had came to order, and there was a quorum, and they talked about this is where we want this part of the building, this building. And by doing so, they fulfilled the requirement.
I don't recall the specifics of that, Commissioner. I really don't.
Okay, well, I'll name the organization as best I can. It was the Italian Cultural Society,
okay,
that now has a building at 132nd Street, but they were going to lose their tax exemption, and they cured it by simply going out and actually
I think they may have had some other kinds of organization things at that site too, now that you mention the name.
I think all they had was vacant ground, but they remedied it by going out and standing there and talking about different details.
We can agree or disagree about the facts. What I would point out is that the regulation does seem to require ongoing construction of a building and improvement, improvement.
I would like the same courtesy extended to that organization, extended to Madonna. I mean, it's pretty obvious who they are and what they do, which is pretty remarkable, and a great addition to our community. So I'd like us to try to figure out some way to make this work. I guess naturally is my attitude, but so I'll yield to Mr. Batenhorst.
My name is Gary Batenhorst from the Klein Williams, Wright, Johnson & Old Father Law Firm, 1125 South 103rd Street, and I'm appearing here on behalf of Madonna Rehabilitation Hospital. A few more of the facts in this matter. Madonna closed on the purchase of this property at 17500 Burke Street, December 19th of 2013. for purposes of building a 110-bed rehabilitation hospital facility. The total construction cost of this project is going to be approximately $70 million. In a project of this size and complexity, there's a lot of site preparation work that needs to happen before the actual construction of the building can begin. Madonna actually, and I'm not quite sure how this happened, but Madonna actually began some of the site preparation work in October of 2013 before they had closed on the property. I have an affidavit that I'd like to present from Dan Steinbach, the facilities manager of Madonna Rehabilitation, that goes into some of the facts that I'll be talking about here. As Mr. Goodwillie said, the assessor's office recommended approval of our tax exemption for 2014 on April 30th of 2014, and the Board of Equalization approved it on May 20th. Our position is that with the site preparation work that had begun and continued periodically during that time, some of this, and I'm not an engineer by any means, but some of this work requires that you begin and then stop while the property settles and that sort of thing. We're also subject to the vagaries of Nebraska weather that enter into it. So that sort of work was ongoing at the time that the Board of Equalization approved our application. They had signed a construction contract with Kiewit Construction in March of 2014, and then while this site preparation work was ongoing, excuse me, while the site preparation work was ongoing, they also had a number of complex regulatory issues that they had to work through with the Centers for Medicaid or Medicare and Medicaid Services, as well as some public financing activities. As Mr. Goodwillie said, construction counts as an exempt use, and really the primary difference of our opinion here is when construction begins. Our position is that it does not require the beginning of the building or that sort of thing. Under those facts, certainly, we would not be qualified for the exemption, but we think particularly in a project of this size and complexity, the site preparation work that began in 2013 and has been ongoing is sufficient to meet the requirement of being under construction, thereby entitling us to the exemption that we had timely applied for this year.
Thank you. Commissioner Boyle?
That's fine.
Oh, okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
If I may add, I'll get the first and the last word anyway.
You've been listening to Commissioner Boyle.
No, Commissioner Lefty, no. The only thing I would suggest is, had the regulation that provided for exemption for ongoing construction of a building or an improvement, had the Department of Revenue wished to include the kind of site preparation that Madonna's talking about, even though it's lengthy and even though it's expensive, and I understand that, I think they could have said that, but instead they decided that the bright line was when you start building an improvement, when you start pouring cement or digging or building a foundation or setting bricks, whatever you're doing. The language they chose was ongoing construction of a building or improvement.
Thank you. Commissioner Boyle?
Well, now I have a question about what was the time gap? I mean, are we talking about a classic Omaha winter when you're expected to be doing footings? I mean, when was this gap, Mr. Goodwillie, that caused this problem?
The time during which construction should have started was July 1. Okay. The best information I have two pieces of information. I don't know precisely when the construction of a building or improvement would actually have started. The General Counsel indicated that August 18th was when construction began, but we also have some indication that the first permit for foundation or footings, first construction permit wasn't issued until October 23rd. So sometime after that July 1 window.
Well, my philosophy of regulation is, and this will come as no surprise to anyone, I'm generally in favor of regulations when they are being used for the protection of the public, and it's in the public interest to make sure that projects and operations are safe. But I think regulations go off the rail when we see an organization such as this coming into our community, and unfortunately a state law intervenes and causes this kind of difficulty for a project that I would say has unanimous support of the community, and one that is going to really lead to the quality of life in our county. I think this is where regulations need to be scrutinized very, very closely and look to see if, first of all, do they make any sense? And in my book, they don't. I mean, I read with a great deal of pleasure when I heard that Madonna was coming to Omaha. Their reputation precedes them. And the kind of work they do is remarkable. So this, to me, the thwarting of their efforts and slowing things down and charging them taxes on a piece of property that's obviously in the next couple of months or so, or a year certainly, is going to be a project of which we're all going to be very proud of. I just think this is regulations gone wrong. And I think we ought to do everything we can to show support for this and not use the regulations as a strict black and white interpretation and say no go. I don't think they should be punished.
Commissioner Rogers?
So, Mike, it is written in law that what your description of what construction means?
There really is no lengthy or categoric definition of construction in that state regulation. It talks about ongoing construction of a building or improvement. And if you read that full phrase, it seems to me it is probably a little bit more than what Mr. Batenhorst has described in terms of preparation. Ongoing construction of a building or improvement would seem to connote some sort of active building of something.
And I actually have the regulation here. It's short if you want me to read.
Sure.
It says a qualifying organization begins construction of a building on its previously non-exempt property that will, when completed, be exclusively used for an exempt purpose. I think that describes us. The construction effectively precludes other uses of the property, and exemption for the property under construction will be permitted. This, again, is a situation. I understand if an organization, even a good organization like Madonna, goes in, buys a piece of property, and sits on it for a year or two before they start to do anything, they shouldn't be exempt during that period. But this is a situation where even before we closed on the property, we began to do the work that was necessary before we could do some of the work that Mr. Goodwillie is pointing out. I mean, you just can't go out in a $70 million project like this and begin the building without having done the appropriate site preparation work that we were engaged in during the time in question.
That's what I wanted to. Are you done?
Yeah, that's very, no, it's just very interpretive. It leaves room for.
There's clearly one thing Mr. Goodwillie and I agree on, and there's a real gray area as to when construction begins, and we just have an honest difference of opinion as to when it is.
But didn't you just state that yours began October 2013 for site preparation?
That was when the site preparation work began.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that
Yes.
you heard that right.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Morgan?
Well, I tend to agree with Commissioner Boyle that, I think the intent's there. You did start construction. Did you say, Gary, that this is $70 million?
$70 million, yes. And they paid $5.8 million for the property, and the construction project is going to be $70 million. Unfortunately, I didn't get the number of jobs that this is going to create, but with a 110-bed rehabilitation facility, you can imagine that the impact on the county is very sizable and very positive.
I dislike having to put Therese on the spot on this, but can the board take action on this if we determine?
Teresa, York County Attorney's Office. The two questions for the board are really what Gary and Mike have first touched on, which is what's construction, and the regulation does say construction of a building. The second thing that the board needs to consider is there's additional regulation that says when you make application for the exemption, that is when you have to qualify for the exemption. So it has to be, what Mike touched on a little bit, was it needs to be before July 1. So the board has to decide what's construction, is it the building of the building, or is it a little bit more, and then did they begin that before July 1?
Which is, again, if I can interject here, the application, that's not a question of the timeliness of the application at all. Okay,
No.
Thank you.
No, and I guess I thought Commissioner Morgan's question might have been, can you act today on the resolution? And you certainly can.
Commissioner Boyle?
Well, I'm curious, what does the assessor's office think Madonna was going to be doing with this property?
We knew they were going to build a hospital. We knew it was going to be exempt at some point. But until they crossed that threshold, in the meantime, there are taxes that the political subdivisions don't get until they qualify.
Well, from my view, with all the tax increment financing we're doling out, like we're, with all due apologies to drunken sailors, like drunken sailors, I mean, it seems to me that, this is so clear that if they're moving dirt, apparently, they're doing things beyond, they were doing things to that property when actually, apparently, they didn't actually own it yet, or there was some gray area. I mean, it's so apparent that everyone believes, everyone who's been involved in this, and I'm on the outskirts of it just as a member of the public reading about it, that everyone is aware that they're building this hospital. They're not, getting ready to open up a cocktail lounge. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious that this is what they're intending to do, and I think this regulation, strictly interpreted, thwarts an effort, a very noble effort, important effort, by an organization that's eminently qualified to do what they're all about. And I just think we're splitting hairs here, and that we're all aware that this is what they plan to do, and we ought to help them and encourage them to do this without a penalty. I'm prepared to make a motion to, I'm not sure how it should be stated, to overrule the assessor, or to grant grant the taxpayer the relief that they request.
It's on the agenda for full exemption removal, so we would have to make a motion to place the exemption rather than remove the exemption.
Okay, then that's my motion.
To place the exemption.
Yes.
Commissioner Kraft?
Yes, and I would tend to agree that construction starts when you start site preparation. When you move those earth movers on there, when you have the plans of the lot, that is part of construction. It's a very important part of construction. And I will support continuing the exemption.
Is that a second?
That'll be a second.
Commissioner Morgan?
No, I was going to second.
Commissioner Duda?
I'm going to be the Christmas Grinch here, I think, because I just can't go along with that a noble effort trumps the regulations. We're a creature of the legislature. They write the laws. I don't think we really have the discretion to say we don't like this law. We're going to choose to do it differently. And a great thing that you're bringing to the community. I wish you all the success in the world. I'm glad you're not asking for county funds to help build the hospital, because you might have gotten them. But I can't go along with ignoring the regulations, because we want to help a noble effort. Thank you.
Commissioner Tusha?
Well, I'm sorry, he's not going to be the only Grinch today. And most people know that about me anyway. And I really understand your dilemma, and I really do understand it. But the problem is being aware of that you're going to do it compared to actually doing the construction before July 1st. To me, that's a thin line, because anybody could come up here and say, well, I have some property, and just be aware that I'm going to be able to do this, and then all of a sudden backtrack. So I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to also say no to the exemption.
Commissioner Boyle?
Well, this is another one of those cases that comes before us, and I'm always amazed about it, and I ask questions about it and never really get a good answer. But if the county board doesn't have the authority to do what I suggested, and seconded by Commissioner Kraft and supported by Commissioner Morganson and hopefully others, if we don't have the authority to do that, then why is this on our agenda? Are we just a sounding board? Are you just a couple of people up here talking about something that you're going to do regardless of what this board wants? I mean, have we no authority in this? If we do, quit putting this stuff on our agenda.
No, look, I think under state law that there's a provision that provides that the assessor and the county board can relook at an exemption. and the board has the opportunity to hear and decide whether or not to continue the exemption or not.
So we have the authority.
I think you have the authority. Now, what I am pointing out is that there does seem to be a regulation that controls on this issue, which is why we brought it to you in the first place.
Well, I mean, if I could, what you're saying is, there's one that controls, so we're really kind of just sitting here as spectators in the back of the bus while you make the decisions in the front. Either we have a right to make a decision on this or we don't. And I think we have a right to make a decision on it. Otherwise, you would not have put it on the agenda. And if it's on the agenda for us to hear what you think, I'd rather you just kind of send us a recorded message and we'll listen to it if we want to, And if we're here to seriously discuss this issue, and I think we have this morning, and I think hearing what's going on and understanding what's at stake, what their actions have been, it's pretty clear, very clear. There's no doubt in my mind they intend to build a hospital at this facility. And if they do, then I think we ought to do everything we can that's reasonable, where no one gets hurt and respects their investment, and that we permit it. So that's what this is all about to me. If we're just spectators, then please tell us and quit putting it on our agendas.
If I may respond to that, and to Commissioner Duda and Commissioner Tusa, I definitely agree with Mr. Goodwill. You have the authority under the statute to remove or leave the exemption in place, and certainly it's our position it should remain in place. And to address your concerns, this is really not an intent to go in and build this $70 million building. Our folks have already expended a substantial amount of money on site preparation and the preliminary activities that had to happen before this can begin. I would agree with you. If we just intended, if we sat on it and then started in 2016 or something like that, I would have no business being up here. But because we've been, and this is not something that began in October of 2013 and continues every day. I mean, you might drive by there, and maybe Mr. Goodwill, he did drive by there one day and might have seen no one there, because that property has to settle for a period of time. They were working through the regulatory issues with CMS they had, all those sorts of things. I mean, we had substantially committed time and effort and resources to the building of this building. It's in a situation where there's essentially, it's hard to turn back. And the regulation that's at issue here also talks about that when you're in the construction process, that's in fulfillment of the exempt purpose. If you're involved in the moving the property around to build the building that we're going to build, you're not using it for a non-exempt purpose. It can't be used for a non-exempt purpose. It's in fulfillment of our exempt purpose. And so that's why we think, the regulation, clearly there's an interpretive issue here of when construction begins, and our belief is that our ongoing efforts for over a year is sufficient to meet that regulation.
Commissioner Rogers?
Yeah, Mike, I just want to make, so you're saying this thing about, it's, you got regulatory controls, but you got regulatory controls that are vague, which leads it up to the interpretation of the governing body.
I think that's a fair statement.
Okay.
With that, there are no other lights, questions, or comments. There is a motion to grant the exemption to Madonna, and there is a second. Please vote.
Motion passes.
Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mike, were there any other ones on the resolutions you needed to talk about?
Probably so. Resolution E relates to a surgical suite. Initially, we granted the full exemption. Later, we discovered that they're running about a 1,700 square foot spa out of the surgical suite. And so our thought process is that exemption needs to be revised to reflect only a partial exemption. The spa probably ought to be taxable, that 1,700 square feet. So that's what Resolution E happens to be. F relates to M. F is we received an application from the Iglesia Pentecostis Luvius de Porter. I'm sorry, I'm going to mangle that. They were an entity that was exempt in 2013, and despite the 4 reminders we sent to people who were exempt the previous year, did not file an exemption with us. an exemption application with us. So we then set about putting a value on the property, and that's what the protest in M is about. But then they subsequently filed an exemption application in November of 2014, way out of time, that we've denied. So that those two, F and M, are related. I'm not sure what G and H are. Those are from the county attorney's office. Government-owned properties is pretty straightforward, as is approving corrections for errors in assessment of personal property, I and J.
Okay, so does anybody want to pull any of these items out for further conversation? Commissioner Boyle?
Well, I'm curious. I'm still kind of stuck on the first one. I know it's called a spa, and everybody goes, oh, that's a bunch of people who getting their fingernails polished and all that kind of stuff. Spas can be rehabilitative operations.
Yes, I know, but I have a brochure from them, and there's Alma laser treatments, waxing, laser hair removal, facial fillers, whatever the heck that is, Botox and dye sport. I'm thinking this is more cosmetic than it is therapeutic.
Well, of course, Botox can be used for other purposes, but
I think they have a special on bikini waxes here, by the way.
Thanks. We needed to know that. We really needed to know that.
Just part of the service to provide the board as much information as I can.
Hey, Christmas
No.
presents, right?
Well, Mike, I think on that note, you may have just kind of pushed me into the other.
And we're not taking issue with the surgical piece. We just think this spa is
Right,
really
and it's
probably...
partial.
It's just partial.
Okay, and would you talk, I'm sorry, you went through it.
So you don't want, you're okay with that one, Renee?
I guess I'll let that go.
All right.
Not going to touch that one, huh?
Which
No,
other one did you?
So to speak, that's right.
Which-
Okay, then F is denial of a permissive exemption application. Would you talk just a touch about that? Is this-
Sure. That's the Iglesia Pentecostal.
Oh, yeah.
Don't make me pronounce that again,
That's
please.
okay.
It's a small church on South 21st Street.
Right.
They were exempt in 2013. We send reminders in November, December, January, and May to folks that we have as exempt in the system. Please file your application, and we got nothing.
Okay, when you say you got nothing, did you get the mail returned or what?
No.
Just never heard back.
Never heard anything back.
Okay, do you have any indication? It says that Jose Hernandez is the contact?
Yeah, he was the contact for the previous application, I think.
Okay, do you think that maybe he's not there anymore, or do you have any clue?
No, because the application we're talking about, they finally got around to filing in November, on November 24th of this year.
Uh-huh.
So I think that was after they got the notice that a value had been put on the property.
Okay, well, do you think this organization otherwise, other than the deadline being botched, do you think it otherwise qualifies for an exemption?
I do, but I will say that the filing deadlines are mandatory. The language is shall, and if you don't believe me, you can believe the Supreme Court.
Well, I've always tried to be respectful of the Supreme Court as a member of the bar, but I think that, to me, it's very clear that the Constitution sets aside categories of organizations that are protected.
Well, what it says, Commissioner, in Article 8, Section 2, is that the legislature may classify and exempt certain kinds of properties. And through the use of the word may, I don't think those exemptions are mandatory or required. The legislature can put whatever requirements they want to on it.
Well, they certainly have not taxed churches yet, have they?
They have not, assuming they apply for exemption and they comply with the statute. Yeah.
Well, this organization applied for an exemption. They just did it late. I mean, what I'm saying...
Okay.
Well, hey, listen, no, here's what I'm saying, is that this organization is a religious organization. The things that it does, how would you tell this organization, as far as the work that it does, apart from St. Cecilia's Cathedral? How would you tell it apart?
That's not the issue.
I mean, aren't they doing the same thing?
Well, they probably are, but St. Cecilia's got their application in on time.
Well, that's because maybe they have more of a history of being able to do these things. Some of these small churches are very, very operative, they're operating on a shoestring.
Commissioner, I understand that. In the time I've worked with exemptions, and even in another work life at the Department of Revenue when I did gaming enforcement, I dealt with all sorts of nonprofits. And the mom and pops struggle with paper, there's no doubt, which is why we go beyond. I mean, we really do send as many, I mean, we send 4 reminders. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, how much help are you going to give somebody? I mean, at some point, is there not some reliance, some responsibility the organization has to take for their situation?
We don't know. We don't know what happened. We don't know whether he was ill. We don't know whether he was somebody else taking place. My point is this, and it has been on all of these cases, is that the Constitution protects and gives these organizations protected status, and that is they don't pay taxes because of the things they contribute to the general community. Now, if you buy into that, which I do, then I think this organization, under the Constitution, regardless of whether they missed a deadline or not, is entitled to that exemption. So I'll make a motion that we grant this exemption for this church.
Commissioner Rogers?
A first-time offender?
Yes.
Okay, I second that. So this is Christmas. They got grace on the church.
Commissioner Kraft?
And is there anybody from the church in the audience today?
I don't know. Sometimes people come and sometimes they don't.
Okay. I see no one making a motion.
Well, there's a motion on the floor.
No.
Coming forward.
Motion coming forward.
Oh, okay.
Movement.
Okay. No other questions or comments then from commissioners? There is a motion and a second to grant the exemption on item F.
No. You're talking about F. You haven't done anything with E yet.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, this is F. Please vote.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
On item E, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. That's the spa.
Yeah.
That's the spot.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please vote on item E.
I'm sorry, what are we giving them the exemption?
The partial.
No, you're revising the exemption to go.
So we are removing
You were removing a
part of
portion.
the exemption.
Part of
Thank you. Thank you.
And Commissioner Boyle, did you have any of the other ones you wanted?
I just wanted to be sure I understood the rest of them. Let's see. Mike, could you tell me briefly what G, H, and G and H are particularly?
Well, I'm not sure what they are since the county attorney put it on the
I see.
agenda.
Okay.
Teresa, do you not have an idea on these?
Teresa, York County Attorney's Office. If the board was presented with the 2 pieces of property that are G and H previously at a prior county board meeting, I believe it was in June of this year, asking for exempt status. They're owned by the Papio NRD. The recommendation from the assessor was that the properties were exempt. The board voted that they were not exempt, and then upon further review, it appears that the properties are exempt. It is currently, I believe, pending at Turk, and normally we would work through the assessor's office on settling the case at Turk, perhaps, as appropriate. However, but because the assessor's recommendation was overruled, they asked us to come forward before the board for direction on whether to settle this at Turk or not, and that's what G and H are, whether to go ahead at Turk and do a stipulation with regards to the exempt status of those properties.
Commissioner Boyle?
What's the use of this land? Do you know?
I believe they purchased it as part of sort of a larger flood project, I guess, is how they built it.
Is it being farmed?
It might be currently, but the Supreme Court has taken the view that even if you have short-term farming going on the surface, if there is some other public purpose use being satisfied by the political subdivision acquiring and maintaining the property, that it can still be exempt as being used for a public purpose.
Well, I thought if a governmental body had property that was being used for non-governmental use, that they lost the
Well, but
exemption.
that's true if there are no other uses going on. Sometimes
What does that mean?
well, because sometimes a government entity can acquire a property and there's more than one purpose going on. The classic example is the buffer zone outside the airport, okay? Airport authorities acquire land around the outskirts of an airport because the FAA requires them to have a buffer. And it's a buffer 24/7, so that if I decide to take up flying and I miscalculate a takeoff or a landing, I don't whack into the side of a darn building. In the meantime, to maintain the grounds, it is not uncommon for the airport authority to lease that surface out to the farmer to plant some sort of a low crop on it. So you've got a private farming use, but you also have a public purpose use as a buffer. And in those kinds of instances where there are two uses going on at the same time, the Supreme Court has said that the public use will prevail. And so we think there's an acquisition here for a flood control project. It's part of the charter of these NRDs. The definition of public purpose includes things like includes use or using or being developed for use for a public purpose. It also applies to performing the duties and responsibilities conferred by law. So on balance, and looking at all of that, even though there is some surface farming that may still be going on, we think the predominant purpose of the acquisition is for a public purpose and exempt, and that's what we recommended.
Is there a motion to grant the exemptions for items G and H?
Well, I think what you're dealing with here is I mean, initially the commission decided not to exempt the property, and as Ms. Urick pointed out, they filed down at Turk, and now I guess after the county attorneys had a look at it, have decided that the case probably ought to be settled. The property does qualify for exemption. So I think what you're doing here is I think you're voting either to approve a settlement or not to approve a settlement. Is that correct, Teresa?
The answer is yes, and it would authorize the chair to execute a stipulation which is attached to the resolution for the board's consideration with regards to that case. Those two parcels, excuse me.
Which is, but, I mean, so my motion that I asked the board for should be to approve these agreements, or?
It's a stipulation, I believe.
I think it would be fine to go ahead and perhaps combine the two and say grant the exemption status and approve the stipulation for the two parcels.
It's G and H.
Commissioner Kraft, did I hear you second? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Boyle?
I'm trying to turn it off the light. There we
Okay.
go.
No other questions or comments? Please vote on G and H.
Motion passes.
Okay, and so then that leaves I, J, and K, which I don't think there are any questions or issues with those three. So do I have a motion for I, J, and K?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote.
Just a moment, please. Okay. Motion passes.
Next, we have a protest, item L, protest a certified assessment correction on 14140 and 14141 for properties located at 4001 Q Street.
Can we start with, Commissioner, can we start with M first? And the reason I suggest we start with M first is because I believe your resolution under agenda item F makes the protest under agenda item M moot. It kind of makes it go away.
I thought we already did M.
Well, you did. You granted the exemption in item F.
Right.
But what M was a protest of the value that was put on the property under a CAC before these guys had filed their exemption for 2014. So they had both an exemption application and a valuation protest going on at the same time.
Okay,
So the resolution of the application makes the protest go away.
okay. So, but it leaves L.
Leave L.
Okay.
All right.
So let's do L.
Okay, let's do L. There are two parcels here, a church and a parking lot. They were purchased in 2012, and the organization obtained exemption here in 2013. It was a church prior, so it was exempt in 2012 under another name, but then they obtained an exemption on their own in 2013. And this is another one where we sent reminders in November, December, January, and May, got no application, so then put a value on the property through a CAC, and this protest, I think, in fact I know it does because it says so in the last paragraph, when we had a number of items that we put value on, I think it was the Greater Macedonia Church that came in, and the board severely reduced the value sort of in lieu of an exemption application. And this seems to be the treatment that this organization is asking for. Now, in terms of value, what I would point out to you is that we have the church parcel on for about $50,000, the parking lot on for $59,700. And I would point out that I'm looking at the copy of the Form 521 that was filed on the transaction for this property, and at that time, in the block that says what is the current market value of the real property, it was filled out as $850,000, and the total purchase price listed on the Form 521 was $550,000. Now, I don't know how they financed it, but nonetheless, there seems to be ample evidence that the $59,700 on the parking lot and the $50,000 on the church are actually kind of a very favorable value for them. So that's where we stand. They're seeking a reduction in value on those two parcels.
And is there people, you want to come forward, please? Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Obdulio Felix. I'm the pastor of the church, located on 4001 Q Street. And I'm sorry, my English is not very big, rich, so I hope I can answer the questions.
And so could you explain to us what you're asking for today? Because what we have before us is the values of $50,000 on the structure and $59,700 on the parking lot. Are you asking for a reduction in those?
Yes.
And what do you want to come forward too and
Yeah.
help? That's fine, that's fine. Well, yeah, that's fine.
Lisa Draper, 15404 R Street. I'm a member of Beautiful Savior Lutheran Church. Beautiful Savior called Pastor Obdulio to begin the Spanish ministry in Omaha. And when I saw the CAC come through, it sent up a red flag because this was a congregation that we began.
And so, I guess, Mike, can you explain again a little bit more on this one in terms of what they're exactly asking us to do today?
Well, I think that the germ of this protest came out of a couple of weeks ago. There were a bunch of CACs for entities that had previously been exempt that either did not file or changed use. One of them was, I think, the Greater Macedonia Church, and I think we have like $29,000 on that one. And it was too late for them to apply for an exemption, so the board decided to reduce the value from $29,000 to $2,900 as a means of, well, okay, there's no exemption application on file, but perhaps if the value is reduced, it's not exactly an exemption, but you've reduced the value enough so that the tax burden on that organization is rather minimal. And in the last paragraph of this protest, there is some reference to the Greater Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church reduction. So what I think has happened here is the organization failed to file its exemption application despite the reminders that it got. it got its notice of value under the CAC that the board adopted, and now have protested the value, basically sort of for the same reason that Greater Macedonia Missionary Baptist did, not so much relating to the value being incorrect, but that it's a hardship on a small church.
And it has been exempt prior to this?
Has been prior.
And it's not that they didn't file late, it's that we don't have
It's that
it
they didn't file at all.
at all. And that was what the result was of the one 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay. So, Commissioner Rogers?
Explain to me what's the difference between this one and the last one.
Well, the last one
I mean, it's the
actually...
same organization.
No, it's two different organizations, Commissioner.
No,
The
okay.
addresses are the same, seems like.
The addresses are not the same, and one was a church building and
No,
a
no,
single
no, no,
house,
no, no.
but the names of the organization.
No, no. L is the Ministerio Jesus el Señor on behalf of Iglesia Luterana Jesus Acel. That's Mr. Reverend Felix organization, and that one's at 4001 Q Street. The one we dealt with before was a different church located at 5213 South 21st.
No, I know the addresses are different, but under the parcel number, it's the same group.
Same Lutheran.
Oh, so you're the umbrella
Right.
for everybody, the Lutheran churches.
No.
You're the one who started these smaller...
So it's like it's the
Lutheran
Lutheran church, and then it's
The district called Pastor Abdulio to begin, you say the church name?
Yeah, Jesus es el Señor Church, through Beautiful Savior, one of the church of part of the district.
okay. So Iglesia Lutheran.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Is that a? That's what I'm trying to find out, because that's the name on both documents. So Iglesias Lutheran is just the holding company?
No, the other is another church. That is not a part of us.
That they've got the wrong name on it.
That's
They
a
do
different
have the
church.
wrong name, because if you look on the agenda, item L says it is submitted by
Okay, sorry.
something different than
Okay.
item M. So I think that these are just wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happened?
It's just, on the referee sheets, they just put the wrong
He didn't change the name.
submitted by. So now we're okay.
Yes. May I explain what happened with this? Beautiful Savior called Abdulio. Beautiful Savior took the initiative to do all the paperwork that was the permissive exemption, things like that. Beautiful Savior did that for them, trying to teach them
Right.
the rules or whatever needs to go on. Beautiful Savior kind of cut the cord, so to say, and wanted them to become independent. And with that, became a cultural difference, because they thought if they had nonprofit organization, they didn't have to pay taxes, period. So when I called Pastor Abdulio and explained to him, you did not file this form, he says, yes, I did. We have nonprofit organization. I said, no, different form. So they neglected to file the permissive exemption form because Beautiful Savior had done it for them before in 2012, maybe? 2013.
13, yeah.
And then in 14, they neglected to do it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Boyle?
Well, this is, deja vu all over again. The deal is that this is a very similar situation where I believe in our estimation, when you have a constitutional right, his response was really interesting. No, I'm a nonprofit. And that is the overriding issue. You are a nonprofit, granted that status in a very serious way. You have to meet a lot of criteria, but you have that status because that's what we believe in as a country, that you should have that status. And so when you have that status, then these deadlines pop up where you have to do certain things that, to me, are insignificant. You have been treated specially by the Constitution of the state of Nebraska and probably the U.S. Constitution, because of the work that you do, you don't pay taxes. And that, I think, is the overriding issue. And for us to suddenly now come in and say, well, you messed up on a deadline, some papers weren't filed, there probably was a cultural difference that you'll learn slowly. It'll come around. But when that happens, then as far as I'm concerned, you'd still have that status if you made another mistake. But this is the case. I think we ought to grant the taxpayer the relief that they're requesting, and I'll make that into a motion.
Is there a second? There's a second. Any other questions or comments? Please vote. Can I back off for just a second? Since there's no other items, does that include adjournment?
Yes.
Does the second concur? Okay, please vote. You're not adjourned, that's right.
No, you're going to be here
That's
the
right.
rest of the afternoon.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much.
Next, we'll go to the agenda for...
Ebenezer, thanks a lot.
Douglas
Thanks a lot,
County
Michael.
Noxious Weed Control Authority, roll call, please.
Commissioner Boyle, Commissioner Duda, Commissioner Kraft, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Rogers, Commissioner Tusha, Madam Chair.
Here, item 1, approval of the minutes of the Noxious Weed Control Authority meeting held Tuesday, October 28, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes.
Citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chamber wishing to speak to the Noxious Weed Control Authority about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to Resolution 3, placing special assessments on property in Douglas County. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any questions or comments? Please vote. Does that include adjournment?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes.
We'll move to the agenda for the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Boyle,
Here.
Commissioner Duda, Commissioner Kraft, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Rogers, Commissioner Tusha.
Here.
Madam Chair.
Here, item A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held Tuesday, December 9, 2014. And item B, approval of claims submitted for payments processed through Tuesday, December 16th. And C, approval of resolution authorizing the clerk comptroller to make certain payments while the board is adjourned.
Motion approved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes.
Next is the consent agenda, items A through X, with a note to strike item U that has been removed and will be placed on a later agenda. Is there a motion? Any questions or comments about the consent agenda items? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion passes.
Next, we have recognition and proclamations. I'm going to switch these up a little bit. The first, we're going to do the presentation of certificates for our 2014 food drive. And again, our county employees absolutely did a smashing job. Total amount of food items of food that were collected were 7,521. We actually surpassed our numbers from last year. So, but we do have our first, second, and third place winners here with us, and there were 3 different areas to which the food went. Our Heart Ministries food went to that, Project We Care, and to Project Hope. And so our third place winner goes to the Douglas County Health Center and the CMHC, which collected 1,011 cans of food. So if, Jim, if you and whoever else is here, would you come up and get your little certificate that we made for you guys? And be sure to hang this baby with pride in that area over there. Thank you. You guys did a great job. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Oh. Then turn around and Bill wants a, and then turn around because Bill wants a picture.
Give us a profile too, just in case.
Thank you, guys.
Can I have a left handshake here? Congratulations, welcome aboard. Good to see you. Jim, same to you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
If those representatives from general assistance that are here, if they could come forward, and they collected, they're in second place, 1,709 items of food.
Wow.
And how many employees total in your department? 43? 38? Okay.
Yeah, get that right.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And then if you'll turn around when you're done shaking.
Congratulations. Thanks. That's really terrific. Says a lot about your department and what you do. Thank you.
They actually have little contests. The first and second place winners have little contests within their department. Yeah, they get pretty competitive with it.
Good. Get your picture taken here, ladies. That's just dynamite. Congratulations.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you guys very much.
You certainly earned it. Thanks. You too. Merry Christmas.
And our first place winner this year is the 911 Center. So if Ryan can come forward, they collected, and how many employees there? It's 43, isn't it? Why do I have 43 on my? 48. Okay, well, that's close.
Very close.
2,749 items, 911.
Jeez, that's great.
Very good. And I can attest what 2,749 cans of food looks like.
I know, you picked them
Yeah,
all
I picked them up.
Congratulations. Very good. Thank you. Oh, dear.
There you go. Good deal.
Beautiful.
Very good, Ryan.
Congratulations. That's just great. Good work. Thanks.
I have I'll email it to you all out and put it, distribute it countywide because we have a picture of all your food. And general assistance, I think you guys took a picture too, didn't you? You don't think you did? Okay, well, we'll have to be sure to do that next year, but we have a picture of the food, so just everybody can get an idea of just what it looks like. So, anyway, you guys did an excellent job, and again, it all goes to the needy in our community, and we can't thank you enough for the work you do on this food drive, so thank you very much. And it was actually Lincoln County that won the statewide. If you remember, the food drive is actually all the statewide courthouses that compete against each other. And so Lincoln County this year, actually they won it 2 years in a row, kept the traveling trophy. So that may be something to work toward. They had close to our total, but it was an astronomical amount of food per employee that they brought in. And I'll send that out as well because we're waiting for a couple more staff. But, so, very good.
Congratulations.
Okay, we can bypass this next.
I know. The next presentation or resolution is for Commissioner Pam Tusha, and this is for her 8 years of dedicated service to Douglas County. And I'm going to tell you ahead of time, I'm going to try to get through this. I'm already starting. I haven't even started reading.
I make a
Yeah,
motion we,
Give me a chance.
Madam Chair, I make a motion we lay this over for 4 years.
All right.
Second.
PJ, second that. Okay, that I need a copy of that. Seriously. Mike and PJ, I really need a video of that one.
So, whereas Commissioner Pam Tusha was elected to the Douglas County Board in November 2006 and began her service as a commissioner in January of 2007. And whereas Pam Tusha was elected to a second term in November of 2010, and whereas Pam Tusha's service on the county board will be ending January 7th, 2015. And whereas during her 2 terms as a county commissioner, Pam served her constituents admirably, demonstrating a passion for county government and a commitment to improving county operations. And whereas Pam Tusha earned the respect of her fellow commissioners and was elected to serve as vice chair of the county board. And whereas during her tenure, Pam Tusha has always been committed to finding ways to create efficiencies in county operations and developing and maintaining responsible county budgets. And whereas chair of the Administrative Services, Pam Tusha was instrumental in getting the county assessor and register of deeds merged on the ballot for voter approval. And whereas Pam has demonstrated great leadership in the county board's ongoing efforts to renovate the former Thomas Fitzgerald Veterans Home for county operations as a means for improving those operations and creating greater efficiencies. And whereas this board wishes to express its sincere appreciation to Pam Tusha for her commitment, dedication, and valued service to Douglas County government. Now therefore be it resolved by this Board of County Commissioners, Douglas County, Nebraska, that this board hereby expresses its sincere appreciation to Commissioner Pam Tusha for her 8 years of dedicated service to Douglas County government, and further expresses its best wishes to Pam in her future endeavors, dated the 16th day of December, 2014.
Okay, I'm making the motion to approve that.
Second.
And I was fine till you started.
And Pam, this
Motion passes.
resolution doesn't begin to say what you've actually given to Douglas County, and not only your service, but your friendship and your great passion, like no other, for county government.
Thank you.
And we will miss you very, very
Okay,
much.
this is not allowed on camera. It's not on. My eyes are red and tearing. This is not allowed. Sit down, sit down.
Commissioner Boyle?
Well, Pam has been a terrific colleague, a lot of fun. I like sitting next to her in executive sessions because they aren't dry when I'm sitting next to her. The only thing I really regret is that I was trying to get the Goodwill home named after me over there, the Goodwill building. Not really. And I was always kidding Pam because she was head of the committee. You know, when that would come up, I'd talk about, hey, that's supposed to be the Mike Boyle Goodwill building, or whatever it is. But seriously, Pam has really contributed a lot. Her perspective is one that we've really valued. She is a very thoughtful person. She always puts the taxpayer and the citizens first, and she's been a delight to work with. I had a lot of fun messing with her when she did the city seal, the county seal. I always ask her in front of Claire Duda, where's the ear of corn? But so it's not that.
There is one.
That's what I figured. I haven't looked at it that close.
And I thank you for it.
Yes, and the John Deere tractor.
That's right. But it's not a question of missing you, because I know we're going to be seeing you a lot, which is going to be great. And you and your husband Gary are really quite a team, and we enjoy We just really enjoy your company, and we will continue to. So
Thank you.
I want to thank you personally for the service you've given to the community. You're a neighbor of mine in the district setup, and we always worked well together, and I appreciate that, your honesty, your candor, and frankly, many times your opposition to everything I try to do. Thanks a lot, Pam.
Hey, I will text you during executive session. I'll watch the board meetings and text you.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Pam.
Rogers.
I want to say I'm going to miss the event tonight because of my son's practice, but I know what 8 years ago was like drinking out of fire hydrant, trying to suck up all of county government. And I just want to commend you for your diligence because you took it on like a full-time position. And every event there was countywide, you were there no matter what it was. And it definitely proved out in just your evolution and growth over the years. And you know, a lot of people haven't taken it on like that, but I commend you for that, and definitely the hard work and service and sincerity you went about county government. And
Thank you.
I appreciate working with you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Duda.
Thank you. I just want to say,
Who are you going to lean over and have a conversation with?
I don't know. That I will miss you very much in that regard. I have huge respect for you and appreciation for your service. I've never seen anybody come into county government, frankly, that knew less about it, but your learning curve was so tremendous. I mean, you were just a sponge absorbing everything. And the way you have grown into this job over the last 8 years has been most impressive, and I just want to thank you for your service and tell you how much I have enjoyed serving with you.
Commissioner Morgan.
Okay, this one's on record.
Pam, I want to thank you very much for your service, and I can understand how Mary Ann felt. You know, we're all going to leave this board at some point, and it's a little difficult because you really do enjoy your time here and participating and contributing, and you certainly have contributed. And I've told you privately how much I've appreciated working with you, and I meant that most sincerely.
Thank you.
I will miss your event tonight, and have the best excuse of any of the commissioners. We'll be with some grandchildren. Today happens to be Annie's birthday, and at 5 o'clock we'll be at La Casas on Leavenworth. We've made that kind of a tradition.
Okay, I'll be up there for pizza.
And so we'll be celebrating my 29-year-old wife's birthday.
Okay, oh, tell her happy 29 again.
All right.
Thank you.
That's great.
Commissioner Kraft.
Yes, congratulations, Pam. I too will miss tonight's event because it's the first night of Hanukkah, and we have family coming over to our house. So,
Thank you.
yep, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Thank you,
Miss,
Pam.
let me just,
You want to say something?
it's been an honor to serve on the board for 8 years and to serve my constituents, and I just want to say thank you to everybody. But you have not seen the last of me yet. I may come up here and protest myself a couple of times. And you're going to get many texts during meetings and outside of meetings say, what the heck? What the heck? Sorry about that. So I just want to say thank you. I've thoroughly enjoyed this position, this job, and yeah, I did take it on with a full set of horns, and it's in my blood now. So like I said, I will be back. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Pam.
Okay, with that, we will move on to citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chamber wishing to speak to the Board of Commissioners about an item not on the agenda? Hi, Melanie.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
First, I want to wish you all a happy holidays.
Merry Christmas to you.
That I get the good stuff out first, right? I'm down here to attend a hearing again this morning, and that's the only times when I actually find myself down here, except to bring important things before this board. In my ongoing attempt to help inform you about what's happening in the Douglas County Juvenile Court system and the public, which I think is important, I wanted to just let you know that this particular case that I'm here to witness today, to observe, is a case that seems to be running counter to all of the discussion that we continue to have in our state and in our county about preventing the unnecessary interaction between the juvenile justice system and children who should not be threatened with removal from their families. And this continues to happen. I don't know why there's this counter activity going on, why people can't get on the same page with the intent of keeping children in their homes and preventing kids from going to places like Boys Town and Utah and various places. As wonderful as those institutions may be for cases that are necessary, it's very concerning that in this particular case we have a child who is being threatened by the guardian ad litem today with removal from her loving family on the basis of truancy, yet again. And she's being threatened with placement in Boys Town or Utah. She's a straight A student. She is a child who has documentation for medical illness. Why are we continuing to discuss these things? Why are these families continuing to be terrorized with this notion that this is in a child's best interest or on behalf of educating our kids? This girl needs nothing but concern for her medical conditions and a concern especially for what this is doing to her emotionally. So in about 20 minutes, this hearing begins, and we're going to sit there and watch whether or not this guardian ad litem is successful in taking this child from her home. The other thing that I wanted to mention is an update on the Flynn case, which is a case that I've discussed here, is this case was finally dropped. It was dismissed, which is excellent news. It was through a lot of months that it drug on. The children were returned. No charges were ever brought. But in the mail after this happened, the mother got a letter from DHHS indicating that she's now in the central registry. The issue of the central registry is something that I believe this board, as every representative of this state, has got to look at, because it denies people employment, it denies people education, and it denies people even the opportunity to care for their own grandchildren should something happen in the future. But based on DHHS's unreviewed investigation that led to nothing but 9 months of misery for this family until it was dismissed, now this mother has to fight to get her name off of a list where there was no due process before her name was ever thrown on it. So those are a couple of the issues that I have today.
And I appreciate those updates, Melanie. Commissioner Boyle?
Well, very quickly, I just want to say, first of all, I appreciate you coming down and giving us these updates. I was aware of that second case you talked about. And I was talking to Commissioner Borgeson just a couple of days ago, and something has to happen, and I think maybe what it is another visit looking at the statutes, because we need to do some things to rein in some of these anonymous people who are making these, sometimes they're anonymous, making these decisions that are so destructive. I mean, they're counterproductive. They don't help families survive, they destroy them, and they give them a stigma, and it changes everything. So, I mean, I'm a supporter generally of juvenile court. I mean, I've had private talks with the judges that I've known for many years, and it's not that I'm opposed to what they do, but there are some things going on that just seem to be abuses of authority. They seem to be agencies of the state that are overreaching. And I intend to talk to Governor-elect Pete Ricketts' wife, Ms. Shore, who's very active in this whole movement. She has a real big heart, open mind, which is a little refreshing in all of this. And she called me some time ago when I was complaining about all these things, and we went to have coffee at a real fancy place, Hy-Vee at 55th and Center. And we had a nice talk about what was going on. She is a real advocate, and I know that she's not going to lose her feelings about this issue just because she's now the First Lady of the state. So we've got a great ally, I think, in Ms. Shore, someone who we can talk to. She'll do the best she can. But I think we need to talk seriously about doing some things to try to prevent these this latest situation where this mother was placed on this list is just outrageous. And so we need that sort of thing needs to stop. I mentioned to Commissioner Borgeson, 2 families I know that have been really knocked around by Child Protective Services, things that have been done anonymously, and then there's this, we can't find out who did what, but it just throws these families into turmoil and causes so much difficulty, and again, rips at the fabric of family life. It doesn't help a bit. Right. Now, there are cases where things need to be corrected. I understand that, and so do you. But over the top, some of these things are over the top and are not helpful. So I just want to tell you, I'm still interested in trying to find a way to short-circuit some of these problems, stop harassing parents who are doing a good job, who love their children, leave them alone.
I agree, and I appreciate that. Could I say one more thing? This mother in this family, who I'm going to be observing at 10:45, the mother actually went to speak at one of the FSG public meetings that was held at Omaha South High School. Right. And there is a concern that there's retaliation going on with regard to that. And so that is of concern to this county board, considering we as a county have supported the FSG work. And I think that there is a very frightening and chilling effect that happens when families are responded to in this way, when they're trying to provide their input on
I
this
was going to
system.
mention that, Melanie, because I was at that meeting where this parent spoke up, and so I do have that concern as well. And I think, again, you coming before us and at least keeping us updated, we appreciate that and know that there's lots of work, and as Commissioner Boyle said, there's probably pieces of it that we haven't even touched yet, CPS being one of them. But I think it is a time for us to be able to commit ourselves to the issue. And to me, the whole philosophy of trying to keep the families together, or the priority of reunification, has to become a priority of action rather than just talk.
Absolutely.
And so we're still in this with you together to work towards it, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I'll be anxious to hear what the outcome of the hearing is.
You'll
as
hear.
Well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Thanks a lot.
I'm not
Good
here
morning,
to
Laura.
talk about guardian up items.
Good morning.
So
Okay.
don't worry. I'm here because my elected representative is Pam Tusa. And I am a frequent attendee of these meetings, as you know. And despite the fact that we sometimes have differences of opinion, I wanted to extend to you my sincere thanks for always being very responsive to me, for doing the best that you could to track down answers. I appreciate and I can attest to the hard work that you've put into this office. And I really do have firsthand knowledge because I really do attend lots of these meetings and communicate with you all. And I will miss the only other female voice on this board. So I wish you good luck. And
Thank you,
I
Laura.
want you to know how much I appreciate all that you've done for the people in my district and the county.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Laura.
Have a nice holiday.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Happy holidays to you, too. With that, we will move to public hearings. A final plat application for 203rd Plaza LLC, Frank Krejci. It's a final plat of Forest Glen, a proposed residential subdivision consisting of 21 residential lots and Outlot A. Address in general location is 5455 South 245th Street, and it is a part of the former Catholic Church Camp Retreat Center property, and action can be taken today after we hear from what our planning board recommended.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Doug Cook, your Douglas County Planner. The first three items on your agenda all pertain to the same property. Forest Glen subdivision, which, as the chairman mentioned, is a part of the former Catholic Church camp on Q Street. It's called Forest Glen subdivision, 21 residential lots and an outlot. The preliminary plat was approved by the board in June. The Planning Commission's recommended approval of the final plat was contingent upon the developer satisfying the environmental services staff's concerns and completing the required documents. Per that directive, staff has had numerous meetings, emails, and phone calls with the applicants. One substantive change from the preliminary plat is that each individual lot now will have a grinder pump, which will grind the sewage and then take that private line up to the main line in the street. Prior, they were going to have a central collection point, and they were going to have to disturb dirt to do that. So as a kind of a good erosion control thing, the applicant came up with that solution. Staff does appreciate the efforts of the developer and his representatives with working with us to address concerns and meet our requirements. As noted in the resolution, we are asking for two waivers. The first waiver is to exceed the maximum length of the cul-de-sac. Our regulations require 600 feet. This cul-de-sac does exceed that. There was a letter from the Omaha Fire Department stating they have no objections to that. And the second waiver is to not require sidewalks. And this also is kind of, or is an erosion issue, because with that much less hard surface, you have that much less runoff. Additionally, the subdivision doesn't connect to, is not a through street, and so people can walk in the street to get their exercise. So we viewed that as a good environmental erosion control issue. So I do have some pictures if you'd like to see them. I'll just zip through them here. The way into the subdivision is looking west from 239th Street. I'm standing in the Southampton subdivision, and so the road just goes off from that circle. This shows about the extent of the grading or a dirt work that's being done. They have graded the street at that point. Very few trees were taken out. So this is the property. It's treed. So staff recommendation is threefold. One is to approve with the following conditions: compliance with the tree mitigation plan, the stormwater management plan, the subdivision agreement, and the covenants, which you were all sent. I'm sure you had a chance to read through all those pages. The second is to a waiver to allow the cul-de-sac to exceed the maximum length of 600 feet, and the third is a waiver to remove the sidewalk requirement. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of the final plat, and we will ask you concur with that with those following three conditions.
Is there anyone here wishing, no, let me just correct, we're only on the final plat item, right?
Yes, Madam
This
Chair.
one. Okay. So is there anyone here wishing to speak to item A? Seeing no other questions, comments, or discussion, I will close the public hearing.
Motion to approve?
Please vote. And again, this is on the final plat.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item B for a public hearing is a rezoning application for 203rd Plaza LLC. Again, Mr. Frank Krejci, same location. And if you want to give us what the planning board.
Just briefly, on the screen is the zoning map. You can see the yellow area on the bottom of the map. That is the Southamptons. That zoning is R1. That is the proposed zoning of this subdivision. It's obviously consistent with our zoning map, and the Planning Commission recommended approval of the change of zoning to R1, and we will ask you concur with that recommendation.
Okay, is there anyone here wishing to speak on the rezoning application? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Second. Please vote.
Motion passes.
Next is item C, public hearing, amendment to the Douglas County Comprehensive Plan, Douglas County Environmental Services applicant, and this is a plan amendment to designate the Forest Glen subdivision as urban residential.
Yes. Here is a zoom of our comprehensive plan. I don't have a pointer here, so I can't show you where the property is, but I think you all know where that is. But this proposed amendment to the comprehensive plan is in conformance with the comprehensive plan because there is this designation actually immediately to the southeast. So the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this amendment to our comp plan, and we will ask you concur with that recommendation.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to here to speak to the amendment to our Douglas County Comprehensive Plan? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
Motion approved.
Second.
Please vote.
Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Rogers. Motion passes.
I just want to, at this time, thank, oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Boyle.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, I just wanted to thank Mr. Krejci. I know this location very well, and this is truly an asset to the area. And I think it'll take care of some of the problems that we've had in that area. And so I really do appreciate you stepping up and doing this great project. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Boyle?
Well, my thoughts are along the same line. The presentation, Doug, you made and the work that you did and the thorough record that came from the planning board really allowed us to go through the information that you gave us. And so that's why there was a lack of questions. It's not that we're all sitting here like a bunch of drones. It was very well done. It's an excellent project and just a great presentation that made a great deal of sense. So I agree with Commissioner Borgerson. This is a real good addition. So good luck and congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner Boyle. Next is item D, public hearing, a farmstead lot split application for a preliminary plat for Gary and Sarah Wirtz. This is general location of east side of North 288th Street between 10575 and 11415 North 288. This is the public hearing, and once I close the public hearing, we can take action if we desire.
Okay, it's a farmstead lot split. It's the chairman said. It's on the east side of North 288th between Bennington and Ringwood Road. It's just a quarter-mile north of the 1-mile limit of the city of Valley. Here's a copy of the preliminary plat. What's important here is, as required by our county engineer's office, they are dedicating 50 feet of the right-of-way of North 288th Street. That is not included as part of the lot, so the buildable area of the lot is 3.99 acres. Here's just some pictures of the property. You can tell they've done some work there. It's pretty flat. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the preliminary plat. We would ask you concur with that recommendation.
Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this item during the public hearing? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion passes.
Item E is a public hearing for the farmstead lot split application for a final plat for Gary and Sarah Wirtz. This again is the same location.
Yes, the 3.99 acres of buildable site. Planning Commission recommended approval unanimously, and we ask you concur with that recommendation.
And again, this is for the final plat.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
there anyone here wishing to speak during the public hearing on item E? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion passes.
Item F's public hearing is a rezoning application for Gary and Sarah Wertz, and this is rezoning from agriculture to RR2, rural residential with individual services, again at the same location.
Yes, ma'am. The property is zoned ag because the lot that we are creating is less than 20 acres, which is the minimum lot size in the ag district. Then a change of zoning must occur. You can see from the zoning map that there are other surrounding parcels zoned RR2, so the proposed RR2 is appropriate. Planning Commission recommended approval unanimously, and we would ask you concur with that recommendation.
Is there anyone here wishing to speak on, during this public hearing, item F, the rezoning application? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
Motion. Second.
Please vote.
Motion passes.
And the last public hearing is an amendment to the Douglas County Comprehensive Plan, Douglas County Environmental Services applicant to add an energy element.
The state legislature passed a law in 2010 requiring counties and cities to add an energy element to their comprehensive plan. That is to be done by January 1st. We hired Keith Marvin of Marvin Planning Consultants to prepare our energy element. He has done energy elements for Lincoln, Hall, Stanton, Merrick, Polk, and Colfax counties, and the cities of Grand Island, Hastings, Falls City, North Platte, Fort Calhoun, and Cozad. The energy element, as you probably read, deals with what individuals can do to be more energy efficient in their lives and also what governments can do. The bottom line for us is, as it shows there on the board, Douglas County will continue to encourage the development of energy-related goals, policies, and strategies. The Planning Commission did recommend unanimous approval to insert this into our comprehensive plan, and we'd ask you concur with that recommendation.
Is there anyone here wishing to speak during the public hearing on this amendment to our Douglas County Comprehensive Plan? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
Motion approved.
Second.
Please vote. Commissioner Boyle?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Yes, Doug, I want to say again that you have really done an excellent job of laying all of this out so that, I was able to read this before I got to the meeting and my questions were resolved. I want to thank you for your professionalism.
I appreciate those comments,
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Thank you. Good job.
Great job.
Thank you, guys. Merry Christmas.
Yes, you
Same
too.
to you, and we like the tie.
It's my penguin tie. It comes out once a year.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doug.
With that, we will move to the committees, the first being the finance. Commissioner Duda, is it just the budget report as presented? Okay. If there's no other questions or comments, we'll move to the Child Youth Services Committee. There are two resolutions, three. Yep, sorry, three resolutions on the agenda, and the first being a resolution approving the Third Amendment to the agreement with Nebraska Family Support Network for family engagement and support services.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes.
Next is a resolution directing the CAO to negotiate a contract with the state Nebraska Office of Juvenile Probation to take over Douglas County Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative Coordinator position. And do we have this, I think we're going to be asking to lay over if potentially, do we have any additional information on this, Patrick, or do you want to just kind of give the full circle of what happened here?
Sure. Okay, at a February 24th meeting that I had at the request of the Annie Casey Foundation, I met with Marcia from Annie Casey, and then I also at that meeting was Monica Miles Steffens with State Probation. At that time, Monica Miles Steffens asked if the county would consider transferring the JDAC coordinator position from the county to the state, to juvenile probation. My response at that time was sure if the state will pick up the salary and the benefits. And her response was, well, we can't do that, but we would be willing to do a split, a cost sharing with the county, where the county pays half and the state pays half. So I said that I thought that was more palatable, and so I chose not to post for the position that Crystal Rhodes is leaving because she got elected to the PSC, and instead, talked with Commissioner Borgeson and Rogers about the efficacy of going in this direction. And so therefore, then I put it on the agenda for today to direct me to negotiate a contract with the state. On Friday afternoon of this past Friday afternoon, I received a call from probation saying that apparently there was some miscommunication among their administrative staff, and that there was no authorization for state probation to make that proposal to the county. I talked with Jeannie Bradner, who's the deputy administrator of probation for juvenile probation, and she said that they would consider possibly contracting with the county for the state to handle the JDA coordinator position if the county picked up the entire salary. And I said, well, I would bring that to the board. I was not optimistic that that was an option the board would support. There's been some other options that others have thrown out on the table that are going to require further discussion. So long story short, we're not ready to move on this today. At some point in the near future, we're going to have to make a decision whether or not we want to go ahead and post for the position that Crystal is going to be vacating December 31st.
Thank you, Patrick. Commissioner Rogers?
I think my thought would be if we can still pass the resolution, because it just gives him room to negotiate. And I think there's still room here to talk. From some of the exchange, and there's been some talk going on, this doesn't seem like a statute thing. This is like a policy. And I think we should still approve it to give room to talk, because I think this is something that can happen. We've kind of got it hashed out, and I think we just need to talk to probation about the realisticness of it.
I think if we pass it, I think we would have to add a part of it, though, that directs our CAO, if those negotiations fail, to be able to post for the position. That's not in here. All this resolution is strictly for the negotiations with probation. But if all fails in that arena, then the CAO is still going to have to need direction from us as to where do we go from here. And so where we go from there is then directing him to post for the position.
Okay.
So we would just have to add take over coordinator position, or if at the end, or if that fails, allow CAO to post for a position.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Duda?
Quick question. I assume the funding is there for this position. I mean, that was the way we were planning on going. Do we have funding in the budget?
Funding is there. It's a combination right now of grant funds and general funds. It will most likely be requested. If we keep the position, we'll request the entire funding be included with the 2015 Community Aid Grant funds for July 1 of 2015.
Thank you. I'm not.
Be a continuation.
Fine. I'm not sure they really need. I mean, I'm fine with what we're doing. I think he's authorized to fill a position even without our saying go for it. But anyhow, I'm fine with what we're proposing. Thank you.
Okay. So with that, was there a motion?
Yeah.
Okay. And you got the amendment to add at the end of if you look on the agenda where it says to take over the Douglas County Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative Coordinator position, or if that fails, direct CAO to post for the position.
And I mean, yeah, meaning I'll move it.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind restating who made the motion and second on that?
Commissioner Rogers made the motion and agreed to the friendly amendment.
Well, I was saying yes, meaning I'll move it. There hadn't been a motion yet, so I'm moving what you did.
I'm
No,
sorry. I thought yours was a motion. So Commissioner Rogers.
And I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay. Please vote. Oh. These things are doing funny things today.
Motion passes.
Next, the third resolution is approving the creation of the executive director position for the Juvenile Justice Collective Impact Project. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Please vote.
Motion passes.
Next is the Human Resources Committee, the weekly personnel report from civil service as presented, if there are no questions or comments. Next is the weekly CAO report on staff assault.
There was one at the CMHC, did not result in serious injury. That's it.
Okay. And next is the legislative items, and again, in the back of this, in the back of your papers here, the legislative, we have one that when we first got it, it was broken down into areas, and then we also added, after we added the Tri-County related items that we talked about at the Tri-County retreat. Then what we did was, at the committee, is reduced those initiatives, and that's what you see on Part D, which is the HR committee priority list items only. And so what I had asked everyone to do is to go through those and either, one, say we want to keep all of these, or two, reduce it further. And so as I was looking through these, the ones that I would have questions for us remaining would be 1 and 2. I would think that 3 and 4, because it is clearly going to be a legislative initiative this year on the guardian ad litem, so both of those have to do with guardian ad litem. Item 5 is questionable. Item 6, this is one where we talked about at the Board of Trustees that would help, especially with our short-term rehab, where it's important that rehospitalization does not occur within 30 days. And this allows community paramedics to actually do home visits, which by law, the law is there. What we're looking for now is whether or not Medicaid and Medicare will pick up that payment. And so they are exploring options to see if that can be done administratively. And if it can't, then I think that this would become a legislative item we would be interested in. So I think we keep that one, and then I will make sure I update the board when I get any updates from them as to whether or not it was allowable administratively. Medicaid expansion, I don't know if there is talk that someone is going to bring it up again. 7, that, oh no, I'm sorry, not expansion. This is the one for county coverage to eligible individuals in county's custody until their sentencing and or post-adjudication. 7. And so what that means is that individuals that enter our system, their Medicaid is terminated once they walk through our doors. This is not only a local level, but a national level of which we're trying to get that fixed, that they are allowed to Medicaid coverage until their sentencing. And so I would think we would want to keep that one as well. Right. And item 8 does play a little bit into that. There are states that are also looking not only just at the Medicaid coverage on these individuals, but also the private insurance piece of it. And so at some point, those two would potentially be combined. And then number 9 is our surcharge collection. And This was revision for the language that currently requires a telecommunication service supplier to maintain records of service surcharge for a period of 1 year instead of maintaining the records for a period of 5. This actually was introduced and indefinitely postponed. That's questionable, as we want to bring that back and continue to support that. And then item 10 obviously is going to be one that has to do with the unfunded mandates that Senator Crawford is working on. So again, I think the ones, if everybody is in agreement, that we just need to say yes or no to is 1, 2, 5, and 6. And so what is everybody's thoughts on item 1? Do we keep it as a legislative initiative, and that is allowing counties to choose whether to have all elections conducted exclusively by mail or drop-off ballot only? Any thoughts, Commissioner Boyle?
I would absolutely support that. I think we've seen so many changes go on with polling places alone that's made it difficult, and I'm not knocking the election commissioner for it, but when you do something on paper and say, okay, we've got 750 active voters, so we're going to do this to the polling place. I was talking to a person who lives at 41st and Davenport, whose polling place has been changed 3 times, and the last time this man told me that he was sent to 30th in Chicago to the hotel. Well, polling places in some cases are intended to be walked, and I remember years ago over at Mackett Conception Church, which sits on 24th, huge hill drops to the east. And so there was a request made, please don't make us walk up that hill to go vote. So we redid the polling places so that they're more accessible. And of course the ADA kicked in, and then it made a whole big difference. I think mail is the solution because, first of all, it cuts down all that overhead of all the people. We just got sued on a polling place where someone got hurt. That cost us money. I mean, there's a lot of unknown costs in there that rear their ugly head. Mail is really the solution. It just, it allows people to vote at the convenience of their home. You have to read those issues. I told my grandkids, when you get those ballots, go to the League of Women Voters, flip those over, and you're going to see all these issues. You need to know what they are and how you're going to vote. So, of course, I told them how to vote. No, I mean, I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that. No, but seriously, there's a lot of material. And so I think voting by mail, in California, I don't know if they still do this, they used to send a sample ballot in the mail to every voter, which was huge packets with all these propositions, so that they would give them a chance to read it. Many of them didn't. So I think this is just a step in the right direction that will, and there's several states that have done this with great success, Oregon, I think, and others. So I think that's a big deal. I think that'd be great.
Commissioner Tusha?
I also agree. I think this is the way to go. In fact, if we've looked over the last several years of voting, you'll find that it's increasing steadily about people early voting or early ballot and mail in compared to what it used to be. And then also you've got to figure, I mean, that's in November. I mean, how many times have we had severe weather in November where people couldn't get out of their houses to go vote? So I absolutely agree. I think this is definitely the way to go.
Commissioner Duda?
We'd get out of here quicker if I didn't say anything. There's a total of 54 bills here, or positions, though, that we are considering supporting today. I had a little bit of a hard time following the numbering because there's a half dozen sections, and so when we say number 6, it could be, we have to know is that C6, D6, which 54 bills is just bordering on ridiculous for us to be taking stands on, and I really would prefer to see us taking issues like this that are not unique to Douglas County. I mean, this is a statewide issue, and I believe that this should be represented by NACO. I think on a lot of these things we should be taking these positions to NACO rather than the legislature, and try to get a little more of our money's worth out of our membership in NACO and let them promote it. I think what we should be emphasizing are things that are unique to Douglas County, and some of these are. But if we have it in common with all the other counties, as we do on so many of these issues, personally, I would prefer to see us advocating for these issues through NACO. Thank you.
I want to clarify, though, Commissioner Duda, because the only items, we've already narrowed it from what your first comment was, is that we have too many items. And so what, at the last legislative or HR committee, we took the big packet and narrowed it down. So you have those items that were tri-county items on Part C, that everybody said, since they are tri-county, we will leave those on as our part of our legislative package. Then on Part D, those were the items that the committee went through and transferred from that big list to narrowing it down. So it's items in that Part D, page 13, 14, and the one on page 15 that we are speaking about today. So again, we're narrowing it, and the ones that are in Part D are the ones that right now today we're talking about, do we continue to keep these on our legislative item or agendas? And we could, as you stated at the end, that this number 1 on the elections, we could take this and say, NACO, will you use this as a legislative or add this to your legislative package, and see if they say yay or nay. So it is narrowed. We started out with a big package. Now we're down to these 10, specifically ours, as to whether or not we want to keep these 10 or narrow it further.
But we, if I may, then the first 44 items are already done. I mean, that, okay, now we're, okay, thank you.
And Part C stays as just items that were agreed upon by all the 3 counties. And so we will work those through the legislative process.
Thank you.
And so ours, so item 1, again, Commissioner Boyle, then I'm going to turn back to you now. If you were okay with, if I go and ask NACO if they want to take this on, and then we would have to determine whether or not we want to keep it or not.
You know, I think so, and I think probably the key person to this is the Secretary of State, John Gale. He has spoken, I believe, in opposition to this. We need to find out why, because there are other counties who do have this right. Yeah. And to me, it would be just be expanding, inserting Douglas County in there, and we'd be able to do it. So, but I think we need to convince him that it's a good deal, and hopefully he's very progressive about that. I think he'd see it. I do agree with Commissioner Duda. I think, we can't have, go down with 500 of these things. I also had a phone call in one of my conversations with Commissioner-elect Kavanaugh that he thought we needed to do about 2 things. I mean, he just really thinks we ought to be focusing, and I can understand that too. I think we have an advantage here because we have NACO with statewide issues, and then we have some that really pertain to us, which is a real advantage. So I think we ought to use those connections, as Commissioner Duda suggested. And I think they'd be really useful. One other thing that if I could take this opportunity, maybe it's out of line, but of course that won't stop me. Can you hear me down there? Can you hear me all the way down? Anyway, what I want to suggest is that last week we had the commissioner from Dawes County come up and talk to us about financing community colleges. Some of the things that they do are really interesting. They recruit athletic teams, which I wasn't aware of. So the community colleges out in the Panhandle and so forth recruit athletic teams, basketball, football, that sort of thing, because they want to drive up the interest in the college for other, young people to attend it. They've got a football team to cheer for and all that stuff. And so that's one of the reasons why their costs are a little bit out of whack. But the thing that concerns me is that this is a case where one size does not fit all, and we have that happen frequently. But this is one where we need to make sure Metro College is such an incredible value to our young people and older people, for that matter, to receive an education that's so reasonably priced that can then be transferred into a college. I mean, it's just one of the most incredible things that's operating to get people where they need to get. So I think we need to make sure that try to work out a deal where we can support Dawes County, but not to our detriment. you know.
And nothing's been introduced or
Okay.
talked about being introduced at this time.
Okay.
He was speaking in the past of what Senator Davis had.
Right.
So we'll kind of watch that.
Yeah, I'd like to be real vigilant, and so
Yep.
Marcos will have to
Absolutely.
check that every day.
Yep.
I'm just kidding.
So I'll talk to NACO about that one and also contact Mr. Gale and see
Yeah,
what,
that'd be great.
what he thinks. The next one is on question is whether we keep it or not, is the legislative initiative to eliminate filing fees paid to the court of jurisdiction associated with filing charges against a person accused of a crime by a county or city. Now, this one actually could be blended into the unfunded mandate discussion, which
Right.
it was talked about during our discussions with Senator Crawford. So it doesn't have to stand on its own. It could be added to our discussion during unfunded mandate.
Right. If I can speak?
Boyle?
Well, the elephant in the room is that the filing fees that are paid go toward the pensions of the judges. So this one is DOA.
Right.
This is going nowhere. And the Bar Association probably resisted. All the lawyers will come out of the woodwork and all that stuff. And the judges will be silent because they have to. But this is a big item for the pension.
Right.
So I'm not sure if it's, I guess if we could figure out a way, what I'd like to see the state do, frankly, instead of all this aid talk, because I feel like aid is we're some kind of a award of the state, and we're getting money from them because we're okay. What I'd like to do is say, why don't you take on these responsibilities? Why don't they take on the responsibility of paying the filing fee? Have the state pay the filing fee.
Right.
And that way the pension remains intact, the funds are still there, but it's just not coming out of property taxes. And the same goes for some of the operations of county government. I've talked about, if you look at, and I don't mean to harp on it, but look at the crime lab. It's approaching $1 million in payroll now. And nothing's going to change with that. I have pretty much accepted that. But I would like to see us try to switch some way to pay for the operations of the crime lab. It'd be nice if we could use the money they seize, but that won't happen. Probably doesn't qualify. But if there's going to be crime labs, why don't we have the state pay for them all? I mean, I'm saying have states pay for these things directly with no debate, no thing that where we're going to, give you some money this year and no money next year, all that kind of stuff, just like we got treated in the jails. I'd like to see the state aid conversation change to the state taking over responsibilities financially of some county operations, the court system, for example, all of that. Pay for the clerk of the district courts across the state. I mean, I just think that's where we ought to go and not be begging for state aid.
It's a mixed bag at this point.
Yeah.
That I can tell you just as late as our NACO convention here last week was that and Senator Crawford was there to speak to the group, and she is working on it, and that's she's looking at those items, and what's also needs to be kept in balance is those items that affect a larger county don't necessarily blend exactly the same with the smaller counties.
Right.
And so there may be a need to look at state paying for / state aid to. And so we have made our point clear that we would prefer state pay rather than state aid. So
Right. Okay, good.
We'll continue down keeping that message on the table. The next one is the duty to remove as a duty of the Treasurer's Office the receiving, storing, and in-person issuance of license plate, and to require the state of Nebraska directly issue by mail all license plate in uniform and statewide manner, preferably from a single central facility. And I mean, I think it's a great initiative, but maybe that needs to wait another year or so before we make it a priority of ours.
I think you're right. I think the treasurers need to be on board. We need to figure out what to do because, Otoe County is not going to be too excited about having that happen because it could affect the number of employees in their office. And so we need to be realistic.
Yeah.
You're right.
And maybe you could work in the meantime with Treasurer Ewing to see if
Sure.
we could come up with maybe something that would
Yeah.
be palatable to bring up next time.
Okay.
So then we're going to keep 6, 7, and 8. Item 9 is, again, the one on the 911 revised language, and I don't know if we want to keep this as a priority. This was brought by our auditor, Mike Dwornicki, when he did that outside work we had outside work done on these issues. So again, it's up to us if we want to leave it or not.
You know, kind of a sidebar to this. When we had that failure the first time in the history of 911, we had that failure in that big windstorm. Infrastructure had a lot to do with that, but it happened in Washington State as well. There were some failures in Seattle and other places. And the Washington Public Service Commission sued CenturyLink, and they got almost $3 million in damages. And I'm not sure how that dovetailed what happened here, but we didn't do anything. We just pointed fingers. And I'm not saying sue CenturyLink, but I'm saying let's consider suing CenturyLink.
So do we hold this one?
No, I think we go ahead. Okay. It's unrelated. I just had to throw in that tidbit.
I always wanted to sue somebody.
Yeah, let's sue somebody.
And then the last one, obviously, we're going to keep, and that's the unfunded mandates.
Yeah.
So, okay, so thank you. We'll revise this.
Very well done.
Send it back out so everybody is up to date on which ones we're keeping and not keeping, and then once we have further discussion on those other ones, I'll report back on those.
Who worked this up?
Marcos.
Well, it's excellent.
Yes.
You have something you'd like to throw in your 2 cents, and this could go on your record, you know, so if you're thinking about getting a raise, you better say it now. Nice job, Marcos.
Okay, so with that, then do we have a motion to approve the revised set of legislative items?
So move.
Second.
Please vote.
Okay.
We do have, oops, I better wait here. Getting ahead of myself. We do have need for an executive session for labor negotiations. That's it. Yeah. Now, before we go in, I did had scheduled a Human Resources Committee meeting immediately following this county board meeting, and it was at the request of Senator-elect Bob Hinkleman, who I thought was just a tremendous outreach to boards that he will be working with next year when he becomes a state senator. And so we were just going to have a sit-down roundtable talking, but unfortunately, he lost his brother, and so he had to cancel. He sends, you know, his regrets that he had to do that, but obviously we all understand. So I think with that, there really isn't a need to go forward with the HR, because that was really the only agenda item that was on there. So I think I'll have Karen just post a thing that says it's canceled. It was really just us anyway. So, Commissioner Duda?
I just briefly want to say how much I appreciate Senator-elect Hinkleman's, and I've never even met the gentleman, but the attitude of, I mean, I remember when Lowen Cruz, who was my senator at the time, and I didn't always agree with Lowen on many things, but he's the only senator that's ever come to me and said, I want to know what the impact of what we're considering is going to be on county government. He gets it. We're working, we're the same constituents. And how much I appreciate Senator Hinkleman's attitude of understanding we're on the same side, working to represent the same constituents. So.
And it was actually very refreshing. At NACO, we also had the honor of having Governor-elect Ricketts attend and speak to all of us counties. And his message was very clear that he, too, is very excited to begin and building that working relationship back with counties. And so we were very, very encouraged by his enthusiasm and willingness to want to hear what we as counties not only think, but what they're doing at the state level, how it affects counties, what's that domino effect. And so that was refreshing as well. So we were very pleased with that, and we're very grateful that he came and spent part of his day with us. So if it happens that we can get this rescheduled with Senator-elect Hinkleman, I will certainly try to do that. But again, I will also tell him how grateful we all are again for his willingness to reach out to us. So with that, after we come back from executive session, then there is no need for the Human Resources Committee. On behalf of the board, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and Happy Holidays.
No meetings after we
And while we may not be meeting, we will still be working. And also, there was a little blip that occurred. Somehow or another, someone faxed something to the Daily Record about us being closed the day after Christmas as making it a holiday. We are not. Wait, you did? Oh. Now, you know what? I was actually thinking he would have done that.
I totally agree. I'll second that one.
So we will be open, the county departments, for sure. Now, I can't say that maybe it was a county elected office that did that. I don't know. But our policy will be that we will be open the day after Christmas. So that's been rectified. So everybody have a good holiday. We'll see you at the first of the year. Commissioner Boyle.
The other thing I wanted to mention, thank you, Sam. I meant to mention this earlier. There was a terrible case of. She's going to be sorry that she did that because
I wouldn't do that for You're one-handed at the moment, so there's no. She can get by with whatever she wants.
I was really going to speak. I've been clowning around a lot, but I wanted to speak serious about a very serious matter. There was a horrible case of domestic violence in Lincoln, where a man, apparently killed his wife and did some terrible things. And there's a vigil in Lincoln and all that sort of thing. And I know that Commissioner Borgeson and others, especially her, have been very active in domestic violence issues. And I would like to see us do something on the screen often. Telling people, particularly during the holiday season, really things get ugly. It's just one of those things. Holidays happen, and people get depressed, and bad things happen during holidays, unfortunately. I'd like to see us put that across the bottom of our screen about domestic violence, what number to call to get help, how women don't need to stay, that they've got places to go. I'd like to see us do that on a regular basis because it is so widespread and so frequent and so violent. I think we need to do that. So that's what I was going to suggest.
Yes,
I think it'd be something useful. See, I said something serious for a change.
I know, I just. Commissioner Tusha.
Mike, I think that's a great idea because, and it's not only females, there's, minor males, but there are still some out there. Yeah. But they just, they need help so desperately, and sometimes they just don't know where to go or who to call or anything. And even at that, they may know beforehand, but at that moment in time, they're so focused on the situation that I think that's a fantastic idea to go ahead and start posting that.
I'd like to see us do that on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Across the screen on our county board shows.
Okay. We will work on that for next year. And with that, is there a motion to go into executive session for litigation?
So move.
Negotiation. Negotiation, sorry.
Second.
I was thinking litigation, but said negotiation. Or the other way around, whatever. It's for negotiations.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Thank you for your note.
convene, adjourn, and celebrate Christmas. Yeah.
Was that a second then?
You second.
Okay. You said yeah. Motion passed.